In this video, we're going to see how to set up the Bricks MCP server that was introduced in Bricks 2.4. It is currently in beta at the time of releasing this video, but I can't see anything really changing when this is actually released. But if it is, I will update the video and remove this old one. So let's go and see how we set it up. Now, before we do, I want to say that I'm going to be using Codex. I'm going to use the desktop app for this, but the principle is basically the same whether you're using Codex, Claude, Cursor, whether you're using the desktop app or you want to go in via terminal. So let's see how we do it. I've got 2.4 installed, and if you come over to the Bricks entry, you'll see there's a new option here called AI. Choose that option, and this now takes us into an area that allows us to do a couple of things. We can set up the connection, and we can also do a couple of other things, which again, I will show you as we go through. So we can set up how the abilities are used, skills, and so on, to make sure that you optimize how you use your MCP alongside Bricks itself. So let's take a look at how we get started creating the MCP connection, and then we'll take a look at some of the other options included. Okay, so first thing we need to do is enable the Bricks abilities. To do that, we simply check this option and we'll come down and say save. Now, the reason I say to do that, save this now before we go any further, is that I was setting this up earlier and wondering why things weren't working correctly. It's because I enabled this, done a few other bits and pieces, set up the connection, but it kept throwing an error saying that the Bricks abilities are not actually enabled because this doesn't auto-save. So I would love to see this using Ajax, that once you actually choose to enable this, it automatically saves it and then allows you to kind of move on. Just a little caveat, just in case you get caught out like I did. Okay, so with that being said, next thing we've got to connect AI with our client to the MCP. So you'll notice the first thing it says is to set up an MCP server. Now this is slightly different to what we had in the first beta of 2.4 where you didn't have this additional step. So if you've watched my previous video, this wasn't in there, which is why I want to kind of show you in this video. We'll say install the plugin. We'll give that a moment to download. There we go. We'll choose to activate the plugin. And you see that now takes us on to the next step where we've got our MCP connected. So what do we need to do? Well, a couple of things here. First things first, we're going to give the credentials name. So in this example, I'm just going to name it Codex, but you can name it whatever makes sense to you. We'll say generate a password. There's our password. This will be deleted by the time you watch this video, so don't worry about that. And then we'll say, how do you want to connect? Do you want to paste the config, which is what you can see here, or do you want to copy a prompt? Now, let me just explain the difference between the two of these, because you may have a more preferred method. The paste config, you can paste this directly into the config file for the tool that we're using, in this example, Codex. So if you're happy doing that, you can simply do that, copy it, paste it in, save it, restart Codex, and you are good to go. But I'm going to take the approach that you just want to do everything inside your AI tool of choice. So we'll choose the copy prompt. Now this is going to tell what tool you're using, in this case Codex, what you wanted to do. It's going to include the things like the actual MCP server at the top, the credential name, the application password, and so on. All the data we need. And I say the main real difference here is that you need to know where the config file is and happy to make those changes yourself, as opposed to the copy the prompt, which will do it for you. And the other thing to bear in mind is that if you use the copy a prompt option, it does take up some tokens and it does take a little bit longer because it kind of has to go through and do everything for you. So let's say prompt copied. So what we're going to do now is we're going to head over into Codex and we're going to tell it what we want to do. So we're just going to paste that prompt in. Now I've got this set up in a folder on my desktop for Bricks MCP Beta, which is what we're currently running. I'm just using 5.5. I'm not using one of the higher models because this is very, very basic. You could even probably get away with a lower model if you wanted to. So I'm going to leave that at 5.5, hit to commit that. That's going to go and tell me what it's going to do, maybe ask me a couple of questions to confirm that I'm happy for it to actually make changes and use various different files. We'll let that run through, and once that's finished, we'll then take a look. Before we go any further, let's take a moment to take a message from today's video sponsor, SEO Press. Now, are you still jumping between WordPress, SEO plugins, and separate AI tools? Then SEO Press is designed to streamline your entire process. The free version allows compatible external AI agents to analyze your content and manage those essential SEO settings. Now, if you move over to Pro, you unlock the in-editor AI assistant with more advanced automation for redirects, schema and image metadata, plus flexible AI provider options. The result is a faster, cleaner SEO workflow with far less boring, repetitive admin tasks. Visit the SEO Press website to explore version 10 and check out the latest pricing today. There we go. In a little over 2 minutes, you can see that's now added the MCP server. Everything has been set up for us. We can now, if we want to, move on to the next step. Once we've created the MCP connection and that is all set up, the next thing we can install the Bricks skills. Now this is completely optional, but it makes sense to install them to give you a better understanding, a better sort of connection between your MCP and Bricks so you get better results. So let's go to skills. We can choose the option from here. I can see this now says copy the install prompt. So let's copy that, head back over to Codex or whatever tool you're using and paste that in. And ask you to go and do that. So again, we're going to wait for that to take a few moments to go and install those skills from the GitHub. And after about 50 seconds or so, this now lists out all the different skills that we've got. Now, obviously, we do need to restart Codex or whatever you're using here to make sure that everything is refreshed. So I'm going to do that and I'll come back in a moment. And there we go. We're now refreshed and everything is back in place. Again, let's head back over into Bricks. And now we want to verify that everything works. So let's copy the verification prompt, come back into Codex and paste that in. And there we go. That's now come back and telling us all the different Bricks related skills that is pulled in from the GitHub repo. So as you can see, all our Bricks skills are listed here. So the final thing to look at are the actual abilities that are exposed as part of Bricks. So you can see we've got the abilities tab. Let's open this up and this will show us all the different abilities that your MCP connected to Bricks actually has access to. So this allows you to, if you want to, customize what is or isn't enabled. As you can see, we currently have 145 available abilities, of which 141 are currently installed and active. And they're broken down into various different component sections. So breakpoints, CMS structure, content lifecycle, design system, and so on. So these are all the areas in which your MCP can interact with Bricks. So if there are certain things here you don't want to have Bricks being able to work with, you can simply come in and disable them. So for example, if we come into the design system, you can see these things like get design context, list the color palettes, create a color, update color, and so on. So if you're working with the native functions inside Bricks to handle things like your typography, your spacing, your colors, and those kinds of things, then you can leave all these enabled. But if you're using an external, like for example, core framework, you may not want to have your MCP be able to use these kind of native functions. Well, if that was the case, you can simply come in and disable anything you don't want to give it access to. And vice versa, if there are certain specific things you do and they're not enabled by default, you can come in and you can enable those in the same way. And again, don't forget to hit save settings once you've finished. But as you can see, there's an awful lot of different options here of which you have full control over exposing these to your MCP tool. So there we go. We now have our MCP connected to Bricks with the skills installed to make sure that we get the optimal workflow between Bricks Builder and our AI tool of choice. Now, if you want to learn more about working with Bricks, there's a playlist down below, so you can check that out. As always, all applicable links for this and everything else covered in the video are in the description below. My name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.